Good morning, afternoon. I guess good afternoon. Welcome everybody who is already here. And we still have 2 minutes. So I'm going to be waiting for you to join the platform, either YouTube or LinkedIn. And whenever you get online, let me know in the comments that you're here. And I will be super happy to welcome you. I already see 14 people. Let me know where you are dialing in from. Which country are you dialing in from? I am so excited to finally have this book for you. And some of you might have already gotten it, and others not yet. So you will get it. Let me know which country you're dialing in from. I'm currently in Pennsylvania, and I don't see any comments. Do you hear me? Do you hear me? Do you see me well? Do you hear me well? Okay. We have people in Las Vegas, from Las Vegas, Munich, Germany, Ohio. Fantastic. Okay, guys, I'm seeing you. And by the way, by guys, I mean everyone, or I don't know, in Texas, you say you all. I just like this word guys, and I apply it to everyone. Okay, fantastic. Greetings from Greece, India, Canada. Amazing. Amazing. We have 1 more minute before the official launch begins. So, Austin, yeah, in Austin, you guys say y'all, right? I tried to adapt this, but I don't know. I just like guys, even though it implies guys and not gals. But in this very context of this very webinar, it's for everyone. And welcome from France, from Berlin, yay! Ohio, Victoria from South Africa. Fantastic to have you guys. Okay, it's 12 o'clock officially. So, logistics, you leave me comments whenever I'm not sharing the right thing. You are not seeing the right thing. You're not hearing me. Anything that goes wrong, you leave me a comment, and I will be able to see the comments. So that's the logistics. Other than that, have your phones ready because there are going to be some QR codes for scanning. I figured out that's a pretty cool way of sharing things. You don't have to copy links and things like that. You can just scan and mark it for later. And let's start. Why digital pathology? Why did I let me do full screen. Why did I strike this digital pathology thing, right? Why did I do this? Why is this the title of today's webinar? Well, I had a podcast recently. I went to the New York conference, and I'm going to be mindful of our time, to the Digital Pathology and AI conference in New York, organized by Global Engage. And I met Dr. Giovanni Lujan. And we were talking about that this conference should not be called Digital Pathology Conference. It should be called Pathology Conference. And he contrasted it into with the same conference that's going to be held on December 10th in Europe, in London. And he says he's been there several times at the European counterpart as well. And he says this conference is different in Europe. It's not about how to start, how to what scanner to choose. They're so much further along than here in the US. There are many algorithms approved and marked as the CE-IVD diagnostic tests, a lot more than the FDA approved. So basically the conversation is about overcoming hurdles in the current practice of pathology. And the current practice of pathology is practicing it digitally. So that's why not digital anymore, pathology. one-on-one, even though the book is called Digital Pathology. And how many pathologists do we have in the world? Well, I don't know if you know Andrei Bychkov. Follow him on LinkedIn. He has brilliant post publications. And if you maybe you have taken part in one of his surveys, give me a survey in the comment if you have taken part in one of his surveys. The recent one was about the use of ChatGPT, but every now and then he posts on LinkedIn, and obviously then he works on this content and posts in other places. And this particular image is from the pathologist, but he also publishes, of course, in peer-reviewed journals with high impact factor. So according to his LinkedIn post, and should you trust LinkedIn post as a source of scientific knowledge? Well, I trust his post, and there are a couple of people that I trust. He's one of them. So Andrei says 108,000 pathologists around the world. Probably 20,000 in the US itself. But when you look at this map, and you can, those QR codes is for you to scan to get to the source post and to the source of my slides here. So those, how many pathologists, right? And here we have a little scale. Let me blow it up for you. So the green areas, as we might have anticipated, are the ones where the situation is not that bad. What do I mean not that bad? Pathologists per million. We have over 40 pathologists per million people. I don't know how good that is. That's very few pathologists for a lot of people. So I should have calculated one pathologist, how many. If you can calculate it quickly for me and let me know in the comments, that would be great. But basically, 40 pathologist services 1 million people. And so in Canada, let me compare Canada to Poland. Poland, I'm from Poland. Here's Poland. You see my mouse, right? I see my mouse, so you should see my mouse. Poland, even though it's a lot smaller, surface-wise, smaller than Canada, it has more or less the same population of like 35 million, 40 million people. So in Canada, we have 40 pathologists per 1 million. In Poland, we have 20 to 29 pathologists per 1 million people. I think this is very overestimated, unless my math is very bad, which may be the case, because I know that we have 500 pathologists in the whole country. So 500, yeah, let's just not go there. This math thing is not my strength. But we have 500 people, 500 pathologists in the whole country, and I talked to some of them, and they have to work in a lot of practices to cover the demand, and the situation is just crazy, right? So this is another proof point why pathology is going into the direction of digital pathology. And let's look at the population growth. We are here in 2023. 2023, we have around 8 billion people on the planet. And look, guys, by 2100, we're not going to be growing that fast anymore. But by then, we will have 10.5 billion almost people. So there's going to be more people. And I think the number of people coming into the world is not going to grow proportionally to the number of pathologists being trained. And let's look at our life expectancy and how healthy life expectancy in various countries. So this is 2019. And I see people. I see people joining from Ethiopia. Oh, and I have a good information here. For Poland, 12 pathologists per million. Yeah, so it was overestimated, right? What did we have there? 20, overestimated. I knew it was overestimated. And so we see here that in 2019, which is already, 4 years ago? Yes, or 5. Anyway, we have in Japan, let's start with the US. We have people who are gonna live while being healthy to 66 years, more or less. So here, this is the healthy life expectancy. The total is life expectancy. So the green and the orange is life expectancy. Healthy life expectancy is the green thing, right? So in the orange thing, people, sorry, I'm showing the wrong country. In the orange, people are going to be sick, right? So they will have to be diagnosed, and many of the conditions rely on pathologist diagnosis. Let's look at Japan. Japan, people live a little longer, 74 in health, and then another 10 years being sick. And then in Germany, I didn't have Poland here, so I spent 5 years living in Germany, so I thought I can use Germany as an example. 70 years, and then another, so 71 almost, and another 10, over 10 years not being healthy. So that's a lot of years. And when we look at the cancer trends in the death rates, we see that the death rates actually are going down a little bit. So different cancers, prostate, oral cavity, soft tissue, myeloma, esophagus, and all the other cancers. All the blue ones are going down. The red ones, it increases. And this is data from, I think, 2022. If it's not shown here on the slide, you can scan the QR code. So, okay, deaths. If we look at it and just relatively speaking, it looks there's more blue, so less deaths, right? What about cases? Well, you can see more red for different cancers. Cases are increasing, but deaths are decreasing, right? This is good. And who diagnoses those cases? Pathologists, right? So pathologists will have more cases to diagnose. And so this is from an ABC News article, but this particular chart is from the source is American Cancer Society. So we can see predictions for 2022. And nearly 2 million cases of cancers likely to be diagnosed in 2022. This is US, right? So the number of cases increases. So the number of diagnoses necessary will increase. And we still have in mind the world map where we don't have too many pathologists servicing all those people, right? And here, the FDA says that we have more or less 43 novel drug approvals per year. What does this have to do with pathologists? This actually has to do with veterinary pathologists, because for every drug approved, there are around 90 to 99 that are not approved. And the studies that go into those that were not approved still have to be evaluated by veterinary pathologists. Any veterinary pathologists with me today? Leave me a comment down below if you are a veterinary pathologist, and especially if you're a veterinary pathologist working in drug development, if you're a toxicologic pathologist. So here again, we want better drugs, we want more drugs. The veterinary pathology part of the drugs is gonna increase. So most of the drugs are being developed in the US, where we have pathologists, but this is only for MD pathologists. So, but in general, I think the trends are the same, although there's a fraction of veterinary pathologists are like a super small minority of pathology specialties. But if anyone is a veterinary pathologist, leave me a comment. So, demand for pathology diagnosis is growing. How can we meet this demand? We can work faster, right? Who wants to do that? Not me. I don't want to work faster. I want to work better and smarter. And recently, so there are two ways we can meet this demand. I recently had a guest on the podcast, Dr. Matt Levitt, who is a digital pathology trailblazer. And I am here laughing out loud from the solution number one. Oh, I see my veterinary pathologists are here. Yes, welcome, welcome, welcome. So I am laughing out loud, and you can get this podcast with the QR code or go to my website. But basically, why am I laughing? Because he said how he was he set up a digital practice. And we're going to talk. Okay, we have some talks about people as well. Fantastic. And you can see that I'm totally confused with my mouse. But that's okay. Talks about people. Anyway, so why am I laughing? Why am I laughing? Because the solution that led to a compliant pathology delivery to the underserved areas, and by underserved areas, I don't mean under-resourced countries. I mean rural areas of the US, Utah, Idaho, reservations in those areas. How to the compliant way of delivering delivering pathology there was a pathologist who had a microscope in his RV, or like this car that you drive around. And believe it or not, this was a CLIA compliant setting to do pathology diagnosis. And he was driving around in those areas to be able to provide a pathology diagnosis. So Dr. Matt decided that was not the most efficient way of doing pathology. How about we set up this digital pathology practice where the centers that didn't have access to pathology could actually send samples somewhere else and have another pathologist diagnose it, and he built a digital infrastructure for that. So the number way of increasing access to pathology by driving around is not that scalable. However, a digital way of doing it is scalable. So this is an example of a digital practice. Digital practice is something where a pathologist can work remotely. So PathNet was the example of the company, and I'm going to be giving some company examples of the concepts that I want to show you. You can Google them and see what they're doing. But basically, PathNet is a model of a digital practice where you consolidate. Well, you don't consolidate. You have people who are doing pathologists who are doing pathology remotely on digital slides. You do have a central location, but basically the cases go out to pathologists who are remote in a CLIA compliant setting, but they diagnose things on digital. So basically, it's like there's a hub, there's a histology processing and slide digitization hub, and this hub takes samples from the places that don't have pathology on site, processes it, and then distributes it to pathologists who are working remotely. So how I see it, this is the way that pathologists will want to work. This is the way radiologists often work. In veterinary pathologists, in veterinary pathology, this is like a common practice. The big diagnostic labs basically scaled their operations by doing the pathology work remotely. They could reach a lot more people. So that's another aspect where people will especially after COVID, where the acceptance of remote work is like so much better than it was before. People will want to work that way. And I'm talking from experience. I get a lot of recruiters contact me on LinkedIn telling me about, oh, there is this fantastic hybrid position. Oh, there's here, we give you a relocation package. My answer to this is I work fully remotely and on digital slides exclusively. If that's in your offer, then we can talk. And they do not have that in the offer yet. But basically, and I know I'm, super privileged and I'm in the minority at the moment, but I am not even 40, and this is like a requirement I have for my employer. I'm not gonna be working in a different way. So digital practices or digital way of doing pathology. Then digital education. Let me tell you my story of digital education. So I'm a board certified veterinary pathologist, and the certifying body that certifies us is the American College of Veterinary Pathologists. So I had to take this exam twice. And if you're a pathologist, you will know that this is not the fanciest of microscopes. This is an Amscope from Amazon. So when I was studying for my first board certification, I had to, the requirement was you had to bring your own scope to the exam. So I had a good microscope where I was preparing, all good, I was using it, but then I couldn't take it. And a friend had a really nice microscope, and I could borrow his scope. And then the biggest nightmare of people going to pass boards with their own microscope happened. This microscope broke like 2 days before the exam, 3 days before the exam. And what I did, spoiler alert, I didn't end up taking exam with this microscope. This is a microscope from Amazon for $500, which is fantastic for educational purposes for kids in high school. And this is not the type of microscope that you take your boards on, and any board certified pathologist is gonna tell you that. So I had this microscope and I hated using it. It was not what I was used to. And again, call me spoiled, whatever. I just hated it so much that I stopped looking at slides. And this is no good if you're trying to pass boards, because one part of this examination is that you have to evaluate slide and write the description, right? So that was a total disaster. And even if I had a better scope, I probably wouldn't have passed the first time. But that took me to a different, and then I ended up donating this microscope to, I don't know which country in Africa, but I donated it. So I failed, right? Failed, like epic fail. I passed zero. There was an option to like, oh, if you it consisted of 5 parts. There was an option, oh, if you pass 3 parts, then you can carry those parts and pass the rest next year. I'm like, oh, maybe I can pass 1. Zero. I like total failure, right? And what happened the next time that I was preparing, I'm like, okay, I need a study group. I'm no longer with my residency mates. Let's do it digitally. And I went for, okay, it's about the content of this image. The whole slide images are good enough for me to study for the boards. Let's just do it virtually, and let's do it with people from around the world preparing for this exam as well. So, and that's what I did. I used virtual slides, and then I passed. Okay, Alex, but I don't have access to scans at all. Who's in that camp? Give me a no scans comment in the comments. Who doesn't have access to scans for their work? I do, obviously. But there's many of us who do not have access to scans. Who is exclusively microscope? Give me a no scans in the comments. And in the meantime, I don't see you. Do you hear me? Still? Am I still? Okay. I have people commenting. Good. When I don't see comments, I'm afraid that we lost connection. So if you could comment, that would be fantastic. So, okay, no access to scans. There are several of you that are now don't have access to scans. And what about who's much faster on the scope? Whose like impression is, I will be so much slower if I have to like drag those digital images. I'm so much faster on the scope, which I am not. I'm more or less the same speed, but also I have colleagues who have a lot more years of experience and they're like lightning speed on the scope, right? So I can understand this argument. And when I started in digital pathology, it would take 30 seconds to open an image, not even like speaking about evaluating it. So, yeah, okay, I have some people who say that digital is slow. Yeah, so that was my experience when I was starting. I'm like, oh my goodness, how can that be? Patience is not my strength. Anyway, so what is happening now, and this is one of the companies that is providing this, you can see this little, little camera here. The camera gives you, it's basically microscope camera, right? So you're still working on your microscope, and you can have this in a different form with this optic unit in between. Like, it doesn't even have a camera. It has this optic unit which serves the same purpose, right? You have this camera in your microscope. You can have a tiny little scanner like this grandium scanner that just, you're working on your microscope, but if you identify something you want to scan, you scan it, right? Why should you care? Because having the slides digitized gives you access to AI. And these little thingies, these little devices, they are now connected to software that can analyze with algorithms the images that you are seeing under the microscope. So you can like basically just be as fast as you are on the scope and still have access to AI. Why do you want to have access to AI? One thing that's already happening, so for a long time, like for 2 or 3 years, I was interviewing people who were working on those predictions of molecular markers from H&E. When deep learning entered the image analysis scene in pathology, it was like, oh, we can now skip all those next-gen sequencing, and we don't have to sequence it all, and we can just run an algorithm. And I'm like, okay, fantastic, like fantasy future. When is it going to happen? And it was not happening, right? Until a couple of podcast episodes ago. And then I saw this publication by Dr. Barlitz Weissengrin. This is a group from Israel. And what they did, they used artificial intelligence molecular analysis to assist in rapid treatment decision in lung cancer, a case report. They basically used it in their practice. This was June this year, right? They used it. They did use whole slide images, but the point here is they used an algorithm that needs to run on a digital image, and they had the diagnosis. So it was not straight from image to diagnosis. What happened here, instead of doing next-gen sequencing for this particular EGFR mutation, they had it detected or like pre-detected with the computer algorithm, and then they knew which PCR to run. So they did rapid PCR instead of next-gen sequencing. This saved them, I think, like 10 days. So in 4 days, they had the correct diagnosis, correct molecular diagnosis that would guide treatment without a scan or without a digital image, because this is the same technology. You can do it once you have it developed on whole slide images. You can then adapt it to the images, to static images, or to live microscopy. So the algorithms that are being now developed and deployed on whole slide images at some point will not require whole slide images. This microscope camera will be more than enough, like it is for Ki-67 quantification, PD-L1 quantification. And basically, it's gonna be for quantifying everything that pathologists are not that consistent with quantifying. And my favorite example is tumor infiltrating lymphocytes. And if you hear me well, let me know in the comments if you ever were part of this, of those trainings that they give to pathologists, how to be more consistent in scoring. So I took part in PD-L1 scoring when I was working in a different setting, not in the ToxPath setting. It was more in a clinical trial setting, but I took part in this PD-L1 scoring course. And basically, they want you to match some other pathologists who guesstimated the percentage of PD-L1 positivity in this tissue. And I don't know how they pick the ones that are very good. Maybe they just serve you a lot and take the majority. And if you know, for PD-L1 drugs, for each you have like a different cutoff. When it's 10% positive, then you go and give the drug. For another drug, it's like over 1. And the same happens with HER2, and the same, I think, happens with the tumor infiltrating lymphocytes. Basically, a pathologist needs to guesstimate, and I'm using this word on purpose because we are visually not capable physiologically to be exact with estimating areas or numbers on an image. This is what computers and calculators were invented for. We say, okay, we are very good in pattern recognition and recognizing what type of tumor, but then quantifying, why do you make an inferior system? And by inferior system, I mean my human body and visual perception system, to evaluate something that can be very easily evaluated by a superior system, a computer, right? Where most of the heavy lifting was done by pathologists. So basically, the trend is those quantification things are going to go away because it's very inconsistent when pathologists do it. So this is why digital pathology, even if you don't have a scanner. Another thing, another publication, and I learn about those publications. Then I go to the source for real, but about many of them, I just follow people who publish a lot on LinkedIn, and then I sometimes get the chance to have them on the podcast and talk about it. So I read this one before my podcast episode with Anand Madabushi. So this was computerized tumor multinucleation index is prognostic in P16 positive oropharyngeal carcinomas. So another thing, that pathologists knew that this multinucleation is prognostic. How very, and I have some good here resources here for some good papers, which I will read and later report on this paper. But going back to this one, to the multinucleation, right? Pathologists knew, but there was no way of consistently evaluating it, of consistently reporting what the numbers are. So they employed image analysis to quantify, and then they were able to say, yes, it is prognostic for real. You can say which level will have a better prognosis, right? So this is happening right now. This is an old publication, actually. It's 2021. I know that this research is already in clinical trials, so this is happening. Okay, fantastic. You can say, I'm happy to use it. Are we done? Why do I need to know more? Why do I need to know more? That's going to bring us to the book in a second, so have your phones ready. Now let me drink some water. Why do we need to learn more, and why did I even release this book? Is because, like I gave you the example of Andre doing all those surveys, right? Asking people different things. He is a pathologist. He understands pathology workflow. He is very digital pathology savvy. So he's going to know what kind of questions he's going to ask pathologists to get the right insights. Many of the people who are working in the digital pathology space, it's a very interdisciplinary space, and a group that's very well represented are engineers. These are the people who most of the time start the startups. These are the people who have the knowledge in image analysis. What they do not have they do not have pathology knowledge. So they ask pathologists, right? And the pathologists will give answers. But the pathologist or pathology professional or histotechnologist or whoever they are asking the questions to needs the right background knowledge to answer the questions, to give them the answers that they actually need. And uh, we, as the non-engineer, as the pathology part of digital pathology, need to know the information. And if I start coughing like crazy again, I apologize. Just bear with me. But basically, we need the context. And this book is giving you the context. This is going to give you the information why why are you being asked certain questions. They're going to be asking you about workflow. They're going to be asking you about like how you score things, which not necessarily, and then like they might want to replicate the way you score things, but it's not always the best way. Like we said, it's not always the most consistent. And then you replicate with a super precise tool an imprecise process of guesstimation. So because this digital pathology area thing, science is growing and is stepping outside of just those startups where and there's a question I used to ask at the podcast to all the digital pathology startups: how do you work with pathologists? And that was my way of highlighting that not too many of them have pathologists on staff. And now pathologists are more savvy and learning more and more about it, and this information is more disseminated, so it's not really necessary to have a pathologist on staff. But I was one of the few pathologists on staff in the first company where I worked, and let me tell you, I was very much needed as the translator. So I first had to learn the computer science part of what we were doing, and then I could bring my pathology expertise to the table. And I want you to be able to do this as well without spending 3 years at a tech startup, but instead by reading this 120-page book that I prepared for you. So this is phone time. Scan the QR code. Some of you have already gotten the book in the email, and I have gotten very, very nice and warm messages thanking me for this resource. So you guys already said, but some of you have not yet seen it, have not yet gotten it. So this is, let me check if this QR code is even working. If it's not, then we have a problem. I confirm it's working. It's working. Let me know if it's working in the chat for you as well. I know that it depends a little bit on the geographical region if all those websites that I put together work. I know that Europe had problems with registration to the webinar. So I hope this one works for you. Let me know. Yeah, and I have here people commenting that this is why they learned AI themselves, because they wanted to have this expertise and be able to contribute. And this is what you are gonna find in this book as well. So, and I want to show you. So what's in this book? What's in this book, Alex? Show me what's in this book. Do I even want this book? Yes, I know you want this book. And that's why I have it for you, ready for free. So the PDF version is free, and I'm going to tell you what kind of other versions there are, but let me show you what's inside. So Digital Pathology 101, all you need to know to start and continue your digital pathology journey. And here are a couple of things about me, and let's look at the table of contents. We have some introduction, and we have the digital pathology milestones and basics to give us a little bit of background. How did this even start? And there are some historical milestones and regulatory milestones. Pathology is happening in a regulated environment, so it's necessary, especially for people who are on the engineering and on the non-pathology side to realize that a lot of this is happening in the regulatory environment. So often you have to find, I don't want to say workarounds, but yeah, you find workarounds or ways to be compliant, right? Then we have basic digitalization concepts. We are gonna talk about some challenges. As much as I love digital pathology, like very much, you need to be prepared to do a lot of troubleshooting. And when you are picking partners for your digital pathology team, problem solving skills, super important. Then digital pathology transformation. And we're gonna have a long blog post in this chapter about new trends and recent paradigm shifts. So this chapter or this particular part of the chapter is going to answer the question, hey, are we going to lose our jobs? Like what chat GPT now can do? This is not image analysis, but it's entering pathology, and it's going to be influencing the way reporting is done. And now it actually can work with images as well. So there is some exciting stuff coming up that is not yet in this book. I will have to probably do addition to very soon. But yeah, are we going to lose our jobs? Like, is this map now obsolete because one pathologist will be able to service 40 million of people instead of 40 pathologists, 1 million of people? Well, this was like the trend at the beginning was this tools that just give you a score and you don't verify, and it's a standalone tool like a diagnostic test. But now the trend is something that's called computer-aided diagnosis. Computer-aided diagnosis, where pathologist is very much involved in the process. Like I showed you in the paper where they had this computer algorithm running on the lung tissue, but then pathologists had to confirm, does it come from the right place, and order the right test to continue or finalize the diagnostic process. So that's what it's going to be. Let me do a full one. So then we're going to talk about challenges and benefits. Image analysis, super important. Image analysis was the AI and the technology that entered to support pathology. Like this language processing with ChatGPT, this is secondary. Image analysis was their first and is there to stay, and it's going to be combined with ChatGPT and other large language models. Then we're going to have applications. And because I'm a toxicology pathologist, I included in this book applications in drug development and in ToxPath. And the last chapter is for my ToxPath people. It's a short one. So from page 119 to 25. So this is what we do as toxicologic pathologists. So not free on Amazon. I see comments. Let's go back. And if you have questions, let me know questions. I have a couple of other things to offer you, and I want to leave some time for questions as well. No, it's not free on Amazon. It's free as PDF. So when you go to this, to the page, let me show you the page. To our page. There, you're going to be taken to a page where you have to put your email, and it's going to send this PDF totally free, zero cost, to your email. So the PDF is free. On the platforms, Amazon is not going to be free. There is cost associated with publishing it there. There is later it's going to be available as paperback as well. So there's cost associated with printing. So it's not going to be $0 there, but it's going to be $0 as PDF always. But I wanted to have it available in different formats. Me personally, I love to read, but I fall asleep when I read a book, like text, right? So I listen to the stuff. So it's going to be on Audible. On Audible, this review process takes like 2 weeks, and it's going to be on the podcast. No, we already know we don't hate to read. So it's going to be on the podcast. On the podcast, it's going to be free. Um, and yeah, give me comments. If you see something is not working, it is like the first instance of launching this, and your feedback is very, very appreciated. So there might be platforms where you will pay for this, right? Audible, you're going to pay because there's cost associated with publishing it there. Podcast is going to be for free, and I'm going to have it in as episodes. So if you like don't want to read a PDF, you can wait for the podcast episodes. I'm in the process of reviewing it, so maybe next week or the week after we're going to have all the episodes for the book, so it's going to be there. Whoever like really doesn't have resources will get it for free. There is a way to get it for free. There's also a way to get it in the format that you prefer. One of them is Audible, which is my preferred format. I like, if there were pathology books in Audible, I would not buy textbook at all. I would just, maybe I would buy the textbook just to see the pictures, right? And what else do we have? If you learn best with courses, if you're interested in the course and me teaching the concepts from the book, there's an option as well. So you probably know I have some courses, but now recently I have launched this membership. And it was $121 per month, and I have a few founding members, which I'm so extremely grateful. If you're a Digital Pathology Club member, give me a comment. And this is a place where I host all the courses. So you can buy the courses separately, but you can also subscribe to this, and all the courses are there. And I'm going to be teaching this as a course. So this also has a cost associated with it, partially because the platform for hosting courses is not free, and partially this is not for everyone. This is to serve people like me, for example, that need to pay attention. What do I mean by that? Let me see. I don't want to. Okay, so there's a code for this in a second. But what do I mean pay attention? I am in this, it's called accountability group. Accountability group that I pay $167 a month. And listen to this, what we do in this accountability group. We meet for 10 minutes every day with other people. We say what we want to do that day, and the next day we show up and say, did we do it or not? So after 3 times showing up and having to say that you didn't do something, you finally do it. And I thought, okay, if it cost me $167 to actually get stuff done that brings me further, let me just pay it. And let me tell you, it's working for me. Could I have done it for free? Yes. You just like decide you do something and then you do it, right? There's no need to pay anybody for this. But I needed some extra motivation. And also there's people who subscribe to a gym membership, right? This is like a gym membership. You pay for it and you're motivated to go and consume this content. There's going to be something that I started doing, had to stop. It's going to be Digital Pathology Digest, where we're going to be reviewing papers. It's going to be an audio format, and we are building an app so that you will be able to have it on your phone. So obviously there's cost associated with this. The question, I see Eric, this is hilarious, right? Like I pay $170 to tell somebody that I'm going to do something and then actually doing it. Anyway, so this is for people like me. If any of you there in the audience are like that, this is for you. But obviously we have a community element to this, and we're going to be doing this Digital Pathology Digest, where I'm going to be reviewing papers, talking to you about those papers. Some of them we mentioned, and this is going to be an audio format with a special app on your phone. So basically I want to do it 5 days a week, so that every day you can listen to a summary of a paper, and I have a 7-day free trial. So for all of you who want to look at the courses, so the book course is not there yet, but the book course is going to be included there, and I'm going to be teaching it live. And for everybody who's in the membership, the live teaching is going to be for free. There is a 7-day trial. So what you can do, you can take this trial now and see what's there, see if you like it. If you're here, you probably like the way I teach, and it's the same way of teaching. And if you then like either don't have the funds to continue, or you don't like it, or I don't know, you just cancel. 7 days is enough to go, I don't think through all the courses, but definitely to pick the one or two that are most relevant for you. And obviously, when we start doing the DigiPath Digest next week, so we're going to start on Monday, so you will still be able to access it, and there are a couple of archival episodes of this. So you can grab the trial right now. And I got questions, oh, is there a discount? At the moment, we are just starting this, so there is no discount. But I decided to commit to, when we have 50 members, then I'm gonna offer a 50% student discount. So all the students will be able to join for 50% of the price. And when we reach 100 members, there's going to be a 90% student discount. So everybody who wants to fund student education, join this so that the students can have it for free. Basically, with that number of members, I'll be able to give back and to offer this at the minimum cost. So this is the 7-day free trial to the membership. And I thank you so very, very, very much. I'm going to go back to we have 10 minutes for questions. If you want this free trial, just make a screenshot of this right now. I would love to welcome you there today. And for those who didn't grab the book yet, grab here. And from this, you're going to be getting some emails from me, but ask me questions. Ask me questions about everything you want to know. Somebody's it may land in the spam box, because this is from a campaign that I set up for this. If you didn't get it, please go and check your spam box and white label my email address, and then you'll be able to get everything. Any questions? Tell me. So here, where will I get the free PDF of the book? It should land in your email. Santosh, go and check. Like with this, you should immediately get it to your email. If you could check if it actually arrived, and if for any reason somebody doesn't get it after this webinar, my team is gonna send it out to everyone who was registered for this webinar. For those of you who are here live, but also for those who just registered, you are gonna get it. My goal is to get it to everyone in the pathology world, because this is the knowledge we need to have to be able to advance digital pathology and to be able to work comfortably in an environment where a lot of this is engineering, a lot of this image analysis, AI, and we just need to be savvy enough to give our pathology knowledge to those people in those teams who need this in the way that serves them, right? So that they don't have to drink out of the fire hose. So you can exactly give them the information they need. And if you can share it, share the link with your friends that you know are going to be benefiting from this. If you can share this on social media, I will so very much appreciate. I want everybody to get it. And it's a short read, 120 pages. So that's that. Okay, my friends, if there are no more questions, I'm going to hang out here a little bit. Okay. And okay, Steve, passed national board exams in Greece today. Everyone was like, you're going to go reset now. And I was like, no, I go to the digital pathology webinar. Oh, thank you so much. This is so sweet. Thank you so much. And congratulations on passing your exam. Oh my goodness, when I passed my board. So when I passed my board, so the time I failed, this was in a location where we had to bring those microscopes, and that was terrible. That was in Iowa, where there's not really too much when I was flying there in Iowa. No offense to anybody who's from Iowa. But then we went to Florida, actually to the place where the MD pathologists are taking their boards as well. And that was in Tampa. And oh my goodness, I didn't have to bring my own microscope. They actually had microscopes there. I was so happy. And then we were allowed to type instead of writing the diagnosis down and our descriptions. And this is 2017. This is not like the 90s or anything. This is like 2017. So we were allowed to type. And then the typing was like lagging and not everything was typing. So that was also an interesting experience. And now the residents who are passing the boards now, they do it all online, digitally in a secure like test taking center on just a multiple choice questions with static images. I don't know why the ACVP didn't decide for whole slide images. I don't know. Maybe they have fears that the bandwidth is not going to be good enough. But basically, now they do all digitally. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Oh, I have here a question. What is your opinion about including clinically relevant annotations in the report as a next step? My opinion is, if you have it validated, why not? So in TalkSpath, there is a concept called pathology notes, because many of our, and this is, TalkSpath specific, but basically it will lead to a general conclusion where you are discussing your study or your evaluation with an external pathologist. They are basically reviewing your work for this to be consistent with the whole drug program, right? And there is no requirement to discuss to record this, and those notes can be in form of annotations, in form of emails, in form of phone calls. This process of coming to an agreement with another pathologist, it does not need to be documented. Only the conclusion, whether agreement was reached or not, has to be documented. So depending where those annotations come into play, there might be later useful for algorithm development. There might be, if you can validate the process, and also there's a DICOM group for annotations that are standardizing the format and the way annotations are being done. I'm all for it. Okay. If we don't have any more questions, then I'm going to give you those 4 minutes back. Get a book. If you want to support some students with discounted access to the courses, become a member of the membership, the Digital Pathology Club. I would love to see you there. For Big Picture. Yes, for Big Picture, which is an initiative in Europe where they are collecting a very large amount of image data for algorithm development. So obviously, if this would come with annotations, that would be fantastic. But if there needs to be a certain way of doing those annotations that's standardized and usable, reproducible, and things like that. So definitely yes. And with that, I want to thank you for showing up, and happy reading. Have a fantastic day.